I still remember that night in our small Boston apartment. The rain tapped against the windows, creating a rhythm that seemed to match my racing heartbeat. Steam rose from my coffee mug as I sat at our kitchen table, surrounded by college applications and financial aid forms. At 22, I was finally ready to pursue my dream of becoming an architect, something I put on hold while supporting Jason through his MBA program. Emily, what are you doing? Jason's voice cut through the silence as he walked in, loosening his tie after another late night at the investment firm where he'd recently landed an entry-level position. Applying to Northeastern's architecture program, I answered, unable to hide the excitement in my voice. Remember how I used to sketch buildings when we first met? I think I can actually do this now. He laughed, not the warm laugh I'd fallen in love with 3 years ago, but something colder, dismissive. Architecture? Come on, Em. That's a pipe dream, and you know it. I looked up, my fingers freezing over the keyboard. What do you mean? I mean, you're a receptionist at a dental office. You barely finished community college. He opened the refrigerator, his back to me. Some people are meant for greatness, and some people are meant to support those who are. You're good at supporting me. Why mess with what works? Because I want more, I whispered, my voice smaller than I intended. He turned then, leaning against the counter with a beer in hand. His eyes softened that patronizing way that made me feel like a child. Emily, be realistic. You're never going to be anything in that world. You don't have the background, the connections, or frankly, the talent. I'm just saying this because I care about you. I don't want to see you get hurt when they reject you. Each word was a brick in a wall being built around me. I felt my chest tighten, my dreams shrinking under the weight of his certainty. That night, I cried silently in the bathroom, water running to mask the sound. I stared at my reflection, red eyes, pale face, a woman I barely recognized anymore. The next morning, I found myself at Riverside Park watching the Charles River flow past. A young woman sat nearby, sketching the Boston skyline with confident strokes. I watched her for nearly an hour, mesmerized by her focus, her certainty. When she finally packed up her supplies, I gathered my courage. "Excuse me," I called out. "Your drawing is beautiful." She smiled, tucking a strand of dark hair behind her ear. "Thanks. I'm May. I teach at the Community Art Center downtown." "I'm Emily," I replied. "I've always wanted to learn to draw like that." "Well," she said, handing me a flyer from her bag, "we have classes starting next week. First one's free." As I held that flyer, bright yellow paper with bold black letters, announcing "Discover Your Creative Voice," something shifted inside me. I thought about Jason's words, how they had hollowed me out. But here was something tangible, an invitation to a different possibility. That evening, when Jason asked where I'd been all day, I simply said, "Just walking." The applications remained on the table, but I'd slipped May's flyer between the pages of my journal. It was a small act of defiance, but it felt like the first breath after being underwater for too long. I didn't know it then, but that yellow flyer was the first step on a path that would lead me away from Jason's shadow and into a light of my own making. The words he spoke that rainy night would echo in my mind for years to come, not as a prophecy, but as a challenge one. I was only beginning to accept. The Community Art Center was housed in an old brick building in Dorchester, its walls covered in murals painted by local artists. Every Wednesday evening for 6 weeks, I told Jason I was taking extra shifts at the dental office, but instead I sat in May's class, learning the basics of perspective drawing and architectural sketching. "You have a natural eye for structure," May told me after the third class, examining my sketch of the Boston Public Library. "Have you ever considered studying architecture formally?" I laughed nervously. Actually, I was about to apply when ... I trailed off, unwilling to give voice to Jason's dismissal. May raised an eyebrow. When what? When I was reminded of how competitive it is, I finished lamely. Everything worth doing is competitive, Emily, she said, her voice gentle but firm. The question is whether it's worth fighting for. That night, I lay awake beside Jason, his words from weeks ago still ringing in my ears. You're never going to be anything in that world. But now, May's question countered it. Is it worth fighting? FOA. The following Sunday, while Jason was at a golf outing with colleagues, I met with Sophia Rodriguez, an academic advisor at Northeastern University. I'd emailed her impulsively after May's class, and to my surprise, she'd agreed to meet me for coffee. Your portfolio is promising, Sophia said, flipping through the sketches I'd brought. Raw, but there's talent here. And your community college grades are solid. But is it enough? I asked, voicing my deepest fear, Jason's fear that had become my own. Sophia closed my portfolio and looked at me directly. Emily, I've been doing this for 15 years. The students who succeed aren't always the ones who come in with the most polished skills. They're the ones who refuse to give up. She slid an application across the table. The spring semester deadline is in 3 weeks. I think you should apply. That application burned a hole in my bag for days. I hid it under sweaters in my drawer, taking it out only when Jason was gone. One evening, as I was filling it out, my phone buzzed with a text from him. Working late. Don't wait up. It was the 3rd time that week. A month ago, I might have wondered if he was losing interest in me. But that night, I felt only relief, more time to work on my application, to dream without his judgment clouding. My vision. The next day, I ran into our neighbor, Tara, in the laundry room. She worked at the same firm as Jason. Late night for you guys too? I asked casually. She looked confused. What do you mean? Jason said everyone was working late on some big project. Tara's expression shifted subtly. Emily ... The office closed early yesterday for the company picnic. Jason left around 3. The revelation should have devastated me. Instead, it clarified something I'd been feeling for months. Jason and I were already living separate lives. His lies gave me the freedom to pursue my own truth. That evening, when he came home with a scent of unfamiliar perfume clinging faintly to his collar, I didn't confront him. Instead, I finished my application after he fell asleep, my hand steady as I sealed the envelope. 2 weeks later, I opened my email to find a message from Northeastern University. My heart pounded as I clicked on it, expecting rejection, preparing for the "I told you so" that would inevitably come from Jason . Instead, I read, Dear Emily Carter, we are pleased to inform you of your conditional acceptance to Northeastern University School of Architecture. I covered my mouth to stifle a sob of joy. Conditional acceptance contingent on completing prerequisite courses, but it was more than I dared to hope for. It was a door cracking open, letting in a sliver of light. That night, when Jason announced he was moving to New York for a promotion, without discussing it with me first, I realized we had been growing apart for longer than I'd admitted to myself. The relationship that had once defined me was now just another constraint I needed to break free from. I think you should take the job, I said, surprising both of us with my calmness. And I think I should stay here. What are you talking about? He asked, genuinely confused. You're coming with me, obviously. I took a deep breath. No, Jason, I'm not. The Boston winter was particularly harsh that year, but it matched the coldness that had settled between Jason and me. After I declined to follow him to New York, our relationship existed in a strange limbo, neither fully together nor officially apart. It's just a phase, he would say during his weekend visits, his tone a mixture of condescension and genuine bewilderment. You'll get this architecture thing out of your system and realize what really matters. What he couldn't see was that I already had realized what mattered: my independence, my creativity, my potential. I had started the prerequisite courses at Northeastern, working evenings and weekends at the dental office to pay for them. Every completed assignment felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. One snowy February evening, I was working late in the university's studio space when my phone lit up with Jason's name. "Where are you?" he demanded without preamble. "I'm at the apartment." I glanced at the time, 11:30 p.m. "I'm at school." "I didn't know you were coming up this weekend." "I wanted to surprise you," he said, his voice softening and that calculated. Way I'd once found charming. "I got the Anderson account." "It's huge, Em. This is what we've been working toward." The "we" struck me as odd. There had never been a "we" in Jason's career ambitions, only his goals and my expected support of them. "That's great," I said, meaning it despite everything. "I'll be home in about an hour. I need to finish this project." "A project more important." "Celebrating with me?" The edge in his voice was back. "It's due tomorrow, Jason." "Fine, I'll open the champagne myself." When I arrived home, I found him on the couch, the empty champagne bottle on the coffee table. Next to it lay my portfolio, the one I'd been preparing for my formal application to the architecture program. "What is this?" he asked, holding up one of my sketches. "This is what you've been doing instead of supporting me?" "I told you I was taking classes," I said quietly, removing my coat and scarf. "Classes, sure. But this?" He gestured at the portfolio. "You're actually serious about this fantasy." "It's not a fantasy," I replied, my voice stronger than I expected. "I got conditionally accepted to the program." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "And you think you'll actually make it?" "Emily, be realistic. You're going to waste years of your life chasing something you're not cut out for." "You don't know what I'm cut out for," I said, feeling heat rise to my face. "You never have." "I know you better than you know yourself," he countered, standing up unsteadily. "I've been carrying you for 3 years. Without me, you'd still be answering phones in that dead-end job with no direction, no ambition." "That's not true," I whispered, but doubt crept in, as it always did when he spoke with such certainty. "It is true," he insisted, moving closer. "You need me, Emily. This little rebellion is cute, but it's time to grow up. The promotion comes with a housing allowance. We can get a place in Manhattan. You can take art classes there if you want as a hobby." For a moment, I wavered. Manhattan, a nice apartment. Financial security. The familiar comfort of being Jason's girlfriend, even if it meant being invisible. Then my eyes fell on my portfolio, hours of work, dreams made tangible. I thought of May's encouragement, Sophia's belief in me, the professors who had praised my progress. "No," I said, the word small but definitive. "What did you say?" Jason's eyes narrowed. I said no. I took a deep breath. "I'm not going to New York. I'm staying here to finish what I started." His face darkened. "You're making a huge mistake. You think you can do this on your own? You'll fail. And then what? You think I'll be waiting for you to come crawling back?" "I don't expect you to wait," I said, surprising myself with how little the prospect of losing him now hurt. "I don't want you to. You're nothing without me, Emily." He spat, grabbing his coat. "You'll never be anything. Remember that when you're drowning in student debt and rejection letters." The door slammed behind him, the sound echoing in our small apartment. I stood there, shaking not with fear or sadness, but with a strange, powerful certainty. For the first time since I'd met Jason, I felt completely clear about who I was and what I wanted. I picked up my portfolio from the coffee table, smoothing the pages he had crumpled. Then I did something I'd been putting off for weeks. I packed his remaining things into boxes and stacked them by the door, That night, I slept better than I had in months, dreamless and deep. When I woke, sunlight was streaming through the windows, illuminating dust motes in the air. The apartment felt different, emptier, but somehow fuller with possibility. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, opening my laptop to an email from Professor Bennett. Emily, your midterm project was exceptional. I'd like to discuss a summer internship opportunity with you. Outside, the snow had begun to melt, revealing patches of ground beneath, dormant now, but ready for spring. 5 years passed like turning pages in a well-loved book quickly, but with each moment leaving its mark. After graduating with honors from Northeastern's architecture program, I landed an entry-level position at Hammond and Associates, a small but respected firm in Boston specializing in sustainable urban design. My first project was modest, redesigning a community center in Roxbury, but seeing my ideas take physical form. Watching children play in spaces I had envisioned ignited something in me that no amount of doubt could extinguish. Kept in touch with May, who had become both mentor and friend. She introduced me to her network of artists and designers, people who saw creativity not as a luxury, but as essential to a meaningful life. Through them, I found my voice, both professionally and personally. On a crisp autumn evening, I was presenting design concepts for the revitalization of a historic waterfront district when I noticed a familiar face in the audience. Jason sat in the back row, older now, his hair shorter, wearing an expensive suit that couldn't quite hide the tension in his shoulders. My heart stuttered for a moment, but I continued my presentation without faltering. The confident woman projecting slides of innovative architectural designs bore little resemblance to the one who had once hidden her dreams in a drawer. After the presentation, as attendees mingled over wine and hors d'oeuvres, he approached me. Emily, he said, his voice softer than I remembered. Your presentation was impressive. Thank you, I replied, surprised by how steady I felt. What brings you to Boston? Business, he said vaguely. I saw your name on the event listing and I was curious. An awkward silence stretched between us, filled with unspoken words and shared history. You did it, he finally said, gesturing around the room at my colleagues. My work displayed on screens, the respect evident in how people approached me. You actually did it. I smiled, not unkindly. Yes, I did. I didn't think, he began, then stopped himself. I was wrong about you. The admission hung in the air between us. 5 years ago, it would have meant everything to me, validation, vindication. Now, it was simply a fact, neither particularly painful nor especially satisfying. How have you been? I asked, genuinely curious about the path his life had taken. He shrugged. A gesture that seemed to encompass both success and disappointment. The firm is doing well. I made partner last year. Congratulations, I said, meaning it. But I've been restless, he continued, surprising me with his candor. Watching you tonight, seeing how passionate you are about your work, I realized I don't have that. I never did. I didn't know what to say to that. The man before me seemed smaller somehow than the one who had once loomed so large in my life, not physically, but in presence and the power he held over my self-perception. I should let you get back to your guests, he said after another moment of silence. He handed me a business card. If you're ever in New York, I took the card, knowing I would never call. Not out of bitterness or lingering hurt, but because our paths had diverged so completely that there was no natural point of intersection anymore. Take care, Jason, I said, and meant that too. Later that night, as I walked home along the Charles River, I thought about the strange symmetry of our encounter, how he had once told me what I couldn't be, and now had witnessed exactly what I had become, but my success wasn't about proving him wrong. Somewhere along the way, The drive to show him up had transformed into something purer, the simple joy of becoming fully myself. The following spring, Hammond and Associates nominated my community center design for a regional award. When it won, I found myself on stage, looking out at a sea of faces, colleagues who had become friends, mentors who had become peers, clients who had become advocates. Architecture isn't just about buildings, I said in my acceptance speech. It's about creating spaces where people can become their best selves. 5 years ago, someone told me I would never be anything in this world. They were wrong, not because I became successful by conventional standards, but because I discovered that being something means defining success on your own terms. As applause filled the room, I thought about the young woman I had been afraid to take up space, to claim her dreams, to believe in her own potential. I wished I could tell her that the journey ahead would be difficult but worthwhile, that the pain of breaking free would be eclipsed by the joy of self-discovery. But perhaps she had known all along. Perhaps that's why, on a rainy night in Boston, with doubt clouding her mind and fear gripping her heart, she had still found the courage to fill out that application, to take that first small step toward becoming the woman she was meant to be, not to prove someone else wrong, but to prove herself right.